Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of One Man Stream. In today's episode, I'm going to show you how easy it is to simply sort and select your data, and that is the name of today's tutorial. Simply sort and select data. This is One Man Stream episode 141. And a few tutorials ago, I introduced you to my new baseball setup that I'm using for 2026, and I showed you an Excel spreadsheet setup. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you the makeup of that, and we're going to talk a little bit about Excel and a couple functions that you need in order to be able to accomplish this. Now, if you want to go ahead and get a hold of this workbook set without building it yourself, that's fine. But the actual purpose of One Man Stream is to help you with these skills so that you can do this yourself. So today's episode, again, simply sort and select data. It's One Man Stream episode 141, and that's our topic today on One Man Stream. So to start off with, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this workbook sheet right here. And you can see on this sheet, we have four separate sheets. We have one that says visitor, one that says home, one that says visitor graphic, and one that says home graphic. Well, the information that's coming into the visitor and home graphics are coming from the visitor and the home sheet. Now, in the very last episode, I showed you how you could quickly add data to this spreadsheet, so we're not going to cover that again. I would suggest you go look, I believe it's episode 139, and it's how to quickly add data to your spreadsheet, and that'll show you how we got this data in there. It's very simple. But today what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to set up this spreadsheet and show you a few functions so that you can get going on your own. This is the blank spreadsheet, and all I did to create this blank spreadsheet is I went to File, and then here under Blank Workbook, I clicked on Blank Workbook, and then when I clicked on Blank Workbook, it brought this up right here. Then I went up to the top here, I single clicked on it, and it brought up the file name, and I changed it to Example Baseball Spreadsheet for Demo. And that's how we did the naming of this spreadsheet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this plus button 3 times because I need 4 separate sheets. So we're going to click on this. It gives us sheet 2, it gives us sheet 3, and it gives us sheet 4. Well, let's go back to our reference real quick. You can see where we have visitor in all capital, home in all capitals, and then visitor graphics and home graphics. So let's go back and name these the same. So this one right here, we're going to call this visitor. All I did was double click on it. We're going to double click on this one. We're going to call this one home. We're going to double click on sheet 3. We're going to call this visitor graphics. And then we're going to double click on sheet 4, and we're going to call this home graphics. Okay, so now we have our 4 sheets. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set up the columns that I need for the visiting sheet, and then I'm just going to copy those columns to home. So if we go over to our reference, we have in the first column, and I'm just going to drag on this and make it a little bit bigger. We have player, and we're going to do this in all capitals. The next column is position. The next column is number. The next column is age or year, depending on whether we're doing high school or college or professional athletes. And then the last one, column E, is going to be the player image. So let's go ahead and make the player column a little bit wider. And then we'll leave these the same. And the image we're going to make quite a bit wider because we're actually copying an image path. So I'm going to highlight this first row. I'm going to go up here and click on center, and then I'm going to click on bold. And you saw what happened there. It centered my topics or my headings, and it made them bold. It's just going to make it easier to read. Just to save time, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to our one that we're using as our example. I'm going to click on this first box here, and then I'm going to hold down my shift key, and I'm going to go down to the end of where we have data, because we need to make sure we include the image as well. So now we're going to right click and copy, and then we're going to bring it over here, and we're going to click on this box right here, right click and paste. And you can see what it did. It brought in all of our data, and I just noticed I didn't have this formatted correctly. This one right here that says image is actually going to say average/ERA, depending on if it's a position player or if it's a pitcher. And we can go ahead and make this column smaller because we don't need all that size. And then this one right here is the one that's going to say image. And this is the one we want to make bigger. Okay, so now we have it formatted correctly. I did that backwards, so we're going to change these column names real quick. So we're just going to call this one home, and then we're going to call this one visitors. So as you can see, all I did right there was I just flip-flop those column names because I formatted that incorrectly. So this is the home team, and then we're going to click on visitors. But one thing I'm going to do, since I have this formatted correctly up here at the top, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this. I'm going to click in this A1 that says player. I'm going to come over here to F1, which says image. I'm going to right click, and then I'm going to come to visitors. I'm going to click in this first box right here and click paste. And you can see where it brought in those headings. So now we got to spread them out. And now we have our headings. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our original spreadsheet. We're going to click on visitors. We're going to click on the first player, and we're going to scroll down until we get to the end of our data. Right click, copy, and we're going to click on A2, and we're going to right click and paste. And you can see where it brought all that data in. What I did very quickly was I took this information we already had formatted on the home team, and then I just selected it. I clicked on the very first box that said player. I clicked on the last box here, which is F, that said image. I right clicked and copied. And then what I did is I brought it over here to the visitors. I clicked on A1, and then I right click and pasted, and it brought in these headings here. So now that we have both teams' data in here, this is going to be the new part of today's tutorial. This is where we're going to start bringing in the graphics, and I'm going to start telling you a little bit about Excel. We're going to be using two functions in Excel today. The very first function is going to be data validation. Well, what does data validation do for us? Well, it restricts cell entries to specific types, such as drop-down lists, data ranges, numeric limits, and it ensures data accuracy and consistency. In our example today, we're going to be using data validation to create a drop-down list. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and show you how we do that. And I'm going to bring you back to our reference spreadsheet for just a second, and we're going to go to Visitor Graphics. And this is what we're going to do. First thing we're going to do is we're going to set up the starting lineup. So let's go ahead and just make it easy on ourselves. Let's go ahead and just copy and paste this information. So we're going to copy it, then we're going to bring it over here to where it says Visitor Graphics. We're going to click in this first one, and we're going to paste. It brought in our information. Again, we're going to have to spread it out. So let's spread out our starting lineup. And then we're going to spread out our team images. So this is where we're going to put our information. So this is where data validation comes in. This is how we're going to do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to click in this box right here, and then we're going to click data validation. You see where we get this, we get a couple selections. We're going to click data validation, and then you see allow. From the drop-down menu, we're going to select list. And then we are going to come down here and click source. Now, when we click source, we're going to go back to the home tab. We're going to click on the first player, and you can see where it brings in that name of that spreadsheet, home, and then it brings in its information for the very first one. We're going to hold down our shift key and click on the last player, and you can see where it puts a colon in there, and then the coordinates for the last player, which is A44, and you can see that in there. But it also puts these dollar signs, and I'm going to show you why in just a second. So let's click OK. And now, when we click this drop-down menu, we have all those players. Quick and easy. Now, what I'm going to show you is we're going to be using this for our visiting starting lineup. So let's click on this, and let me go ahead and show you what I was talking about. Okay, so when I was talking about those dollar signs just a moment ago, what does that mean? Well, a dollar sign is an absolute reference, and by absolute reference, we're going to use the example of $A, $1, and what that does is it locks both the column, and the column is A, and it locks the row. The row is 1. So neither will change when this formula is copied, and that's very important for our next step. And then we're going to click on the box we just made, and we're going to drag it down. So we're going to drag it down 10 spaces. So now you can see we have drop-down lists in every one of these boxes that we just made. 10. You can see we have a drop-down list there. Now, if we, just to make sure, we'll go to the very last one and we'll make sure we have all the players. The first one was Alex Alicea. The last player was Lucas Moore. So we do have all of the players now included in each one of those drop-down boxes. So that's the importance of using the $ as the absolute reference. So when we're manipulating these boxes later on, it doesn't change our data range. So now we're going to come into the next part of this tutorial, which is vLookup. Now, what does vLookup do for us? vLookup, as it states on this graphic right here, it's a formula used to search for a specific value in the leftmost column of a table and returns a corresponding value from another column. There are several things that you have to have in order for vLookup to function properly. That's what this next slide is going to show us. This is the vLookup syntax. There's 4 things we need. We need the lookup value, which is how it's actually going to be defined in the formula. I like to use the layman's term. I call it my search term, and it's actually what we are looking for. The second argument, or the second piece of the syntax, is the table array. And again, in common speak, I call that my data range. And that's the range containing the data that we're sorting through. The next piece of information, or the third argument, is called the column index number. And that is the column number in the range containing our result. So what we're doing is we're using a piece of information, we're sending it out to look through a bunch of data, and we're telling it specifically, we want you to look in this column right here. And then the last thing is the range lookup, and that's either going to give us an exact match or an approximate match. We use false for exact match, we use true for approximate. So let me show you how this is actually going to work using this real example here. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on this and we're going to select Alex Alicea. We're going to come over here to where it says position, and we're going to type an equal sign, and then we're going to start typing in vLookup. And when we do, you can see that vLookup pops in. We're going to double click on that, and then it brings in those headings we just showed you. Lookup value, table array, column index number, and range lookup. So our first thing is our lookup value, and that is our search term. Our search term is going to be right here. So when we click on this box, you can see where it brings in A2. So after we figure out what our search term is going to be, we put in a comma, and the next thing it wants to know is it wants to know our data range. So our data range is going to be this, and we're going to click on the first player, which is Alex Alicea, hold down our shift key, and we're going to scroll down to our last player, which is Lucas Moore. We're going to come over here to this cell right here. We're going to click it, and you can see where it brought in that information. It brought in home, exclamation point, for the home tab of this sheet. Then it brought in A2, which was our first entry, Alex Alicea. And then it went all the way down to F44, which was our last entry, Lucas Moore. So now let's put a comma. So now what we have to do is we're going to go to our spreadsheet here. The first thing we're looking for is position. See right here, this column right here, it says position. So we need to go back to our home column, and our position is our second column. This is column 1, this is column 2. So we're going to put a comma in here, and we did, and we're going to put in the number 2. And then we're going to put in another comma, and then we're going to put in, do we need an exact match? No. So we're going to type in false. And then we are going to close our parentheses to finish this out, and then we're going to hit enter. And you can see where it brought in this right here, infilled for Alex. Let's go back to our original spreadsheet, and we'll bring that in real quick. And you can see that under Alex, his position is infilled. So we have that one set up correctly. All right, now we're going to go to this one. And what I'm going to do, you can see in here where we have A2 is our search term. And this information here is going to be the same, except we're going to change our column. Now our column, our number is what we're searching for, and that's going to be in column 3. So let's go ahead and pull this over. And you can see when we did, it just copied all that information. When I brought it over, you can see some of our information changed. I was afraid that was going to happen. All this information changed. So what I'm going to do, let's go ahead and get rid of this. Let's go over here and let's go ahead and put some dollar signs in here for this. And we know that it's going to be an absolute reference. So these aren't going to change now when we're manipulating. What you may have noticed that I did, and I've done this a time or two, and I want to show you, you have to make sure that you're putting in a dollar sign and not an S. I accidentally put in an S and it screwed everything up. So it has to be a dollar sign. So I put in $A, $2 for absolute on my first choice, which was Alex Alicea, and then $F, $44 for the last player, which was Lucas Moore, and then I hit enter. Okay, then it brought in infield again. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and pull this over. When I pull it over, you'll see that my search term changed from A2 to B2. Let's change that back to A2. And then we're going to change this column 2 to column 3. And then we're going to hit enter. And you can see now it brought in his number. And we're going to bring it over here a little bit, drag this one over again. Again, let's go back and change that information from B2 to A2. And then we're going to change this to column 4 and hit enter. And it brings in Junior for his class. And then we're going to do it one more time and bring this over. And again, click inside here. We got to change that to, and I could have put an absolute there, but I want to drag these down here in a minute, so I didn't want to put this as an absolute. So I'm just changing this one as we go. This one's going to be column 5. Enter, and we're going to bring this over again for the image. Again, let's change, click inside here, change this to A2, change it back to A2, change this to column 6. Oops. And enter. And I don't have anything listed in there again, so it brought us back a 0. So let's go look at this. Alex Alicea, we have him as infield, number 0. He's a junior. We have nothing for his average. I don't have any information put in there, and I don't have an image. That's why we have a 0 here for average and a 0 here for player image. Let's go to the next one. I'm going to click on here. We're going to go ahead and select Lucas Moore. Okay, now our search term is going to go from A2 to A3. So let's go ahead and drag this down. You can see where our search term changed to A3. Let's go ahead and bring this down. Click in there. You can see where our search term turned to A3, changed to A3. These are changing as we manipulate these formulas, but these other ones are not because we have the absolute reference put on them. So let's go ahead and pull this one down. Let's go ahead and pull this one down. And then we'll pull this last one down. Okay, so let's go ahead and set up the rest of the lineup. Okay, so now you'll see as we pull these down now, all that information should come in for these other players. Now, the only player that I had an image for, and let's cut back to our original one, was Tage Davis right here. And you can see where I have an image for him, and it did bring in the associated image when we pulled that function down. So what you would want to do next, this is our batting order. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I left out our pitcher. All right, and let's go ahead and pull these down. So you can see how handy using that absolute reference is. If we didn't have that absolute reference, we would be having to put the functions in for each one of these. So basically all we did was we put the function in for this first row, and then we went back and we just changed the column for the information that we were looking for. Now what I'm showing you now, that this is the batting order portion of the spreadsheet. This right here is the player position. So you'll notice that as I select players, like Lucas Moore's our center fielder, if I put Drew Freeman there, you can see where the center field information changed. So let's take it back to Lucas Moore, and you can see where the information goes back to Lucas Moore. What we're doing is we're selecting our positions here, and it's inputting the information right here. This information right here that's being outputted from our selections, and this information right here is the information that is going to be going into our graphics. So this information right here, when we're making these selections right here in this pink area, this information is actually what's being displayed down here. And then this information down here, where you see first, second, third, short, left, center, right field, pitcher, catcher, this information is what's being put into our starting lineup graphic, the one that has the field displayed. So this is where that information is coming from. So how do we get from this to this? Well, that's what I'm going to show you right now. This is kind of a layout of what the baseball field looks like. This is going to represent left field, center field, right field, and then this is going to be third base, shortstop, second base, and first base. Well, how did I get these names in here? And you'll notice that these names have the drop-down menu associated with them. And I'm going to do the last two for you, which is pitcher and catcher. So all I did is I came up here and I right-clicked and copied. And then we're going to say the pitcher is going to be about right here. So I'm going to right-click and paste. And that's going to bring us our pitcher. And then I'm going to come down here a little bit further and I'm going to right-click and paste again. And this one is going to bring us our catcher. Well, as luck would have it, it did bring in the right person right here, Ethan Eberle, as our pitcher. So let's select our catcher, which is Jimmy Nugent. So now we have our completed field. Now we have pitcher and catcher. Oops, we're going to have to make Jimmy Nugent a little bit higher than that because that's going to fall into our information that we're going to be using in vLookup in just a minute. So let's go ahead and get rid of this. In order to get rid of something that you've created with data validation, you got to come up here to where it says data validation, click on it, and then click clear all. So we'll clear all, click OK. You'll notice that the drop-down menu goes away, and so we can click on it now and get rid of the contents of that cell. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put the catcher right here. So we're going to right-click and paste. And that's going to bring in a spot for our catcher, and we'll go ahead and we'll select our catcher, which is Jimmy Nugent. So now we have the complete layout, and it doesn't quite look like the other field representation, but you get the idea. We have the complete layout of the infield. So how do we get these players here to populate down here for our graphics? Well, that's the easiest part of this whole tutorial. What we're going to do is we're going to click in here. Now this is first base. We're going to click in here. We are going to put an equal sign, and then we're going to click over here where our first baseman is, and we're going to hit enter. And you can see where it brought in our first baseman. So second base, we're going to hit the equal sign, going to come up here for our second baseman, click enter. Third base, equal sign, come up here for our third baseman, click enter. Shortstop, put in an equal sign, come in here and select our shortstop, hit enter. For left field, equal sign, select our left fielder, hit enter. For center field, equal sign, select center field, enter. And then our right fielder, we're going to select equal, click on our right fielder and select enter. And then our pitcher, equal sign, select our pitcher, enter. And catcher, equal sign, select catcher and hit enter. Now we have the entire team designated right here. Now the cool thing is when we use these drop down lists, say we want to change our catcher, we click on this person here, you can see that it brings in that name right here. So that's a really cool feature. We have the drop-down list for all of these folks here. We select who we want in our starting lineup, and then that information is going to be displayed right here. Now, to bring in the other elements that we need, once again, we're going to use vLookup, and I'll go ahead and show you how to do that. Okay, so we're going to click right in here. We're going to click in equals, and then we're going to start typing vLookup, and we'll double click on it. Our search term is going to be right here, so let's click on it. Our search term is going to be B35, so then comma. Now we're looking for our data or our table array. That's going to be on the Home Team tab right here. We'll go up to the top, click the first player, hold down our Shift key, scroll down to the last player over to where an image would be if we had one, and you can see where it brought that in, A2 to F44. Well, let's go ahead and make those absolute references, so by putting those $ in that we talked about a little bit earlier. And then let's put a comma. Now what we're looking for is going to be the player's position, okay? So that's going to be column 1, column 2, position's going to be 2. And then for our lookup range, true or false, we don't need an absolute match, so we're going to type in false. We got to finish out our argument, put in a close parentheses, then click enter. And you can see where it brought in the position. Now, we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to go ahead and pull this over, change our search term back to B35, change our column to 3, enter. It brings in tags number. We're going to pull this over again, change our search term again back to B35, change our column number to 4, click enter. We have his year. Let's pull this over one more time. And then this should be column 5. Enter. All right. So now, if our argument holds true for what we did earlier, as we pull these down, our information should be being brought in. And it looks like it is. And as I said before, we only had an image for Tag Davis. That's why these other images are coming up 0. Now, let's see if this works. Let's say we want to change our catcher. Let's click here. Change our catcher to Peter Michael. You can see the information changes. Let's take it back to Jimmy Nugent. And you can see where that information changes back. So we have this entire spreadsheet now set up just using 2 functions, data validation and vLookup. What I'll show you next time is how to get this information into your graphics, and that's going to be very simple. It's mapping your graphics. So once you map those graphics, they are mapped forever. Whenever you change this information, bring in a different roster, all your functions and everything are going to remain the same, and your graphics will automatically change. That'll be our next topic on One Man Stream. If you like what we're doing here, please give us a thumbs up and a like, and also tell a friend. That'll help out a whole bunch. You can stop by our website. That's www.onemanstream.com. That's where we have our graphics store and more. We have our graphics along with many of the vMix UTC controllers as well. They're just a few dollars a piece, but it is a way that you can help support me here at One Man Stream. And as always, thank you so much.